Thanks for the warm introduction, and great to be here, of course, as always, with, I guess, people we've worked with for a very long time. I have a sort of sense of deja vu, certainly with Sharon, I think, a very long road on some of these issues. Thanks also, Andy, for the great sort of historical journey. For somebody who's new to the region, it's great to hear about the road that we've travelled to get here. But first of all, on behalf of UNDP, let me thank Sharon and the team very much for the invitation to be part of this. A warm welcome to all our colleagues from the region, from the GPAC Secretariat. It's really great to be here. From our side, we're also happy to support this event, and particularly some of our Fiji colleagues, through, as Sharon mentioned, our SCEFI project, the Strengthening Citizen Engagement in Fiji initiative, which is funded by the European Union. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment, but Sharon has worked very closely with us through that project as well. I guess what's great about today is, and I guess the next few days, and I'll hopefully be able to join you a bit in between FRSC for some of the other parts of the program, but it's obviously a great moment for civil society to come together at a time when, as we've heard, there's a lot going on at the regional and international level. So clearly an opportunity to reflect on peace and security issues, what those might mean for the region. I think, interestingly, as you said, Andy, it's perhaps less that the region is confronted by conflict in the traditional sense, but clearly we know that violence, at least at the societal level, is still a huge issue in our societies. And there are a lot of these conflict drivers around issues of land and resources and identity that obviously continue to challenge our societies here. So while we may not witness the sort of conflict like, say, in the Middle East, certainly that doesn't mean that our societies are conflict-free. And of course we all know, as good conflict prevention practitioners, that the whole issue about conflict is that it can be constructive. It's how it's dealt with in a non-violent way that is so important. So we still have lots of work to do, even if we don't have war here in the sort of overt way like in the rest of the world. As both Sharon and Andy mentioned, this is a very important year for the UN on peace and security issues, with these various reviews taking place, and of course the post-2015 development agenda and the new SDGs, hugely significant, particularly Goal 16, which I was personally very involved in the early years. Some of you may remember I was very involved in work on armed violence, including with Sharon here in the Pacific, and in fact a lot of that early work on armed violence and small arms drove the sort of work behind Goal 16. So we're really delighted to have this goal. And I guess our challenge now at the Pacific level is really to look at how we localize or contextualize that goal for Pacific societies. And UNDP, through our SCEFI project, but also at the regional level, is very committed to working with all of you to see how we might do that. Some of you joined us earlier this year when we had an SDGs workshop here for the Fiji colleagues, which actually I think went very well, and I think there was a lot of interest, particularly also on Goal 16. Here in Fiji, through the SCEFI program, we've also been exploring different ways to engage Fiji citizens in a range of issues related to the democratic transition in Fiji, and as I say, FemLink has been a key partner with us on that. We've done a lot of work with youth and women's groups, and also last year we sponsored the first Youth Security Forces dialogue since 2006 with Aspire Network. And of course, many of you have also been, I'm sure, participating in the consultations around the new Fiji National Security Strategy that is under development. And we are discussing with Sharon and the team on how we can take forward some of that work as we move forward into the implementation of that new national security policy, together with the various white papers that are also under development at the moment. One of the areas that UNDP has also done a lot of work in, which I think is relevant, is work around sort of conflict and natural resources. The Pacific region is blessed, of course, with fantastic natural resources, but of course the management of these resources in an equitable and sustainable manner is, of course, a key driver of conflict in the region. And we see how in many societies issues around land and resources are a source of conflict. PNG perhaps being the poster child for this kind of issue. But of course Fiji has had, and I guess will continue to have, its own challenges in terms of that. So we have also done a lot of work in supporting here in Fiji, again, youth and government, both at national and provincial level, coming together and developing training to build capacities for conflict management and the management of natural resources, which we think is very important. And in fact, just recently we had a youth symposium here in Holiday Inn to look at this whole issue, because it's obviously seen as something very critical for Fiji going forward. I want to talk just a little bit about, before I finish, about the issue of security sector governance, or security sector reform, as it's often called. This is where the deja vu comes in, because Sharon and I think, participated in a meeting in Tonga in 2009, which was the first sort of regional gathering to look at the whole issue of security sector governance. And since that time, UNDP with Femlink and others in the forum, of course, has worked quite closely on these issues. We, of course, were very delighted last year that forum leaders actually endorsed the principles on security sector governance, which I guess is a nice kind of framework for us to have at that regional level. And of course, now the challenge really is to implement or operationalize some of those guiding principles at the national level. UNDP, as a result of that early work in Tonga, was asked to provide support to Papua New Guinea in developing their new national security strategy, which was endorsed in 2003. And that strategy, I think, did a pretty good job of trying to incorporate the principles that were in the regional human security framework, but also the principles that were under development in terms of security sector governance. So that experiment or experience in Papua New Guinea, I think, was very useful, and has provided, I think, an interesting basis for the work here in Fiji, but also Solomon Islands has also requested support from the forum and ourselves to embark on a similar process. So we have an opportunity now with those principles in place to do that. And I guess obviously the current review of the human security framework and the regional action plan also provide useful entry points in terms of how we might do that. Again, I think the issues of sort of peace and security, insofar as they relate to security sector governance, are very critical in terms of things like physical safety and security, issues of domestic violence, gender-based violence. They don't really pertain to issues of war or conflict. So I think that our engagement in discussions with the security sector are very, very critical for a whole range of issues that are particularly important for our societies. So in that regard, the Forum and the UNDP Pacific Centre with Femlink and other partners, UN Women, are exploring a new program on security sector governance that would have two dimensions. The first is around what we might do at the sort of regional level, given the review of the human security framework and the regional action plan and these principles that have been endorsed. And then secondly, to support on request specific countries where they wish to develop national security policies and strategies, and where we can, like with the case of PNG and the case of Fiji, where we can bring in, we hope, a sort of human security perspective into this work. So we look forward to working with the Forum and Femlink and others on taking this work forward. Finally, let me just recognize again the Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflict. It's a very impressive organization, and we're very blessed and delighted to have here in the Pacific an organization such as Femlink, which has a leading role in this global organization, and our dear friend Sharon, who continues to play a leading role in all of this, which helps to keep the Pacific connected to many of these global processes. And thank you, Andy, also for the reflections on some of these recent global meetings that GPAC has been convening, and how there's obviously this, I think, very right and useful emphasis on the role that regional organizations and CSOs can play together. So I think that's a very important opportunity for us. And so with that, let me thank you again for the chance to be here with you today. We are very committed to working with you on these issues, and we wish you all very well in your deliberations and look forward to joining you over the next 3 years.